Hello, everyone. Welcome to Developing Palates. I am Aaron Loomis coming to you from the Ventura Cigar Company studio, and with me today is John McTavish. How you doing, John?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm still trying to recover from the big Rocky Mountain Smokeout cigar show this weekend. We were just talking in the green room, and I said, I love attending cigar events, but man, hosting and organizing cigar events, I mean, it's work, and it's like, it's like 16 hours in a day, and I'm
Yeah,
I'm I'm suffering a little bit.
yeah. We'll talk about cigars and try to alleviate a little bit of that.
Hell yeah,
So today we are talking about the hit and run part Deux, the rip and dip,
rip and
almost
dip.
Robusto. It's 4 3/4 by 52 ring gauge. Comes out of the Tabacalero William Ventura factory in the Dominican Republic. Wrapper is Habano. The binder is undisclosed, and the filler is a mix of Nicaraguan, Dominican Republic, and U.S. It is blended by Matt Booth and Robert Caldwell. Price point is $11.50, and the cigar was released in August of 2018. So, with all that out of the way, John, what was your smoking experience like?
Well, first of all, I'm surprised it comes out of the William Ventura factory. I didn't know that. And if listeners aren't aware, I try to go into these reviews as blind as possible, so I don't look up the tobacco, the origin, etc. So I was kind of surprised by that. First third for me was very good. The profile kind of surprised with sweet spices and cedar, and then a little bit of chocolate, and all those spices and cedar and chocolate just kind of intensified and became more complex as the first third went on, which is always positive. I got a little bit of caramel sweetness, so it wasn't just kind of a generic sweetness, a caramel sweetness as it evolved throughout the first third. And then I would say that sort of generic chocolate profile became kind of a combination of milk and dark chocolate, which was interesting. That's a good combination for me. Then I thought the flavor complexity dropped off going to the middle third, and I would say it was significant. That is, you could measure it by the movement into the middle third. Got a little bit of cedar joining in the middle third. There was some nice harmonization, but overall the complexity dropped off quite a bit. A little bit of earthiness, a little bit of cedar kind of taking over the post draw, and then that chocolate just continued to fall. So I wasn't getting that nice milk dark chocolate combination, just kind of a generic chocolate, and the intensity of it fell down to about a light plus. And then as the middle third continued on, really the profile just largely became cedar and earth. So really, nothing else to mark on there. And then in the last third, I would say the profile was pretty average. A little bit of sweetness, just a generic sweetness, not that caramel sweetness. A little bit of spices in the retrohale, but again, light plus. And then a little bit of mild char. So really no flavor evolution throughout the last third at all. In terms of burn and construction, I rated it as very good. The burn started out razor sharp. Ash held on in 2 inch increments, which was excellent, and had a little bit of waviness in the middle third, requiring 2 touch-ups. So that's why I knocked it. But overall, I would say that was very good construction. In terms of the draw, I found the draw to be right in the ideal zone with just a slight resistance to each puff, which is kind of exactly where I prefer the cigar to be, rather than towards the open spectrum. So no issues there. What was your experience like, Aaron?
Yeah, for me, the cigar started out with some wood, full cinnamon note, a little bit of breadiness. About a half inch in or so, the wood became a little bit fuller. The cinnamon started to ease up. The breadiness was really faint. About an inch in, all the flavor components had become even. So it was a pretty good flavor combination. Retrohale was a mix of the breadiness and the wood. About an inch and a quarter, wood takes on a little bit of a char, kind of knocked down the cinnamon a little bit, but the bread notes kind of stayed at that even level with it. As the third was wrapping up, charred wood is up front, the bread slightly behind, cinnamon note was in the background, and the strength was right around the medium mark. Getting in the second third, bread evens out with the charred wood. A little bit of cream enters the profile. It became even with the cinnamon in the background. A little further in, the bread, cinnamon, and cream drop out, replaced by mustiness, which was even with the charred wood. Retrohale was kind of just the musty wood. About an inch in, char picks up on the wood while the mustiness was right behind it. And as the second third was wrapping up, the wood gained a unique combination of toast to go along with the char, as that mustiness was still right there in the mix. Strength remained at that medium mark. Final third, toast note took the lead over the char with the wood, and the mustiness was still right behind it. A little further in, the char and the toast kind of swapped positions, so the char was up front. A little further in, cigar begins to heat up a little bit. Mistiness joins in. Retrohale was toasted wood and mustiness. About an inch in, the heat and the mintiness eased up. The wood lost that toast note, but had some char to go along with that mustiness. And the strength bumped up to slightly above medium. In regards to construction, very good. Slightly wavy for the burn, but it always maintained itself. Ash held on in inch and quarter increments. In regards to the draw, it was just a little bit tighter than I prefer, but it wasn't anything big. Didn't cause any issues with the smoking experience. So overall, what were your thoughts on this cigar?
I would say that I was disappointed in the sense that the first third kind of showed me what the cigar could be, and I wasn't quite sure why there was such a substantial drop off from each third in terms of what it was offering for the flavor. So I put down that maybe this is one of those things where the cigar is out a little bit early in the sense that it needs to rest for maybe 3 to 6 months, and maybe the tobaccos inside will harmonize better. I kind of want to revisit this one in 2019 and see if that's the case, because I do feel like if the first third is that good, the rest of the cigar should be, at the very least, should maintain a good level, if not a very good level. So, I think if it had started out as average or good, then the experience would have been the same all the way through. So, little bit puzzled overall. I think I ended up rating it good overall, just because that's the average of the three thirds. But I think it's got potential. What was your overall experience?
Yeah, man, I think same as you. I mean, I like the flavor profile that the first third provided, but after that, became less complex and started kind of going downhill. Strength was right around medium the whole way. Construction is really good, so that's always a plus, and it's going to make it presentable to most smokers, kind of in that medium strength range. I think it's a good offering from the collaboration between Booth and Caldwell, but it wasn't something that really wowed me. Level of enjoyment in this cigar, I think, could be found in any number of other cigars. There's nothing special about it. So, it's not something I'd be in a hurry to revisit, but maybe, like you said, maybe if we revisited it, 6 months plus down the road, it might present a little bit different profile if that's the case.
Did you smoke the hit and run part one?
I did.
How do you recall offhand how this kind of compared? I mean, I know I kind of threw you under the
I
bus there.
think I would say there might be a slight uptick in the original over this, but
Okay.
it wasn't enough where I could tell you right off the top of my head, like, I really enjoyed that cigar.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I don't think that there's anything between the two of them. Like, they're probably pretty close based on how I scored them.
yeah.
But yeah, neither one of them I only blew my socks off. So
I only brought it up because I actually intentionally took the original hit and run. Now I was kind of on a bit of a jack palate because I was smoking a lot of cigars, but I tried to smoke it earlier in the day, so I smoked it this weekend, so I'd have fairly fresh comparison. I thought the original was more consistent throughout the three thirds, but I would say, it probably would have gotten a good rating for our overall mark, but I think it would have been sort of just slightly below the good rating for me in the sense that while it was interesting, it wasn't overly complex, and I think this cigar had more potential overall.
right,
Was my
yeah.
kind of takeaway.
So getting to the scores, you gave it a 7.07. I gave it a 5.85. So how do you think that matched up with your experience?
I think that indicates just how important draw and construction overall is in the cigar, because I think
Mhm.
if you look at the flavor profile, this to me is like a low to mid sixes. But when you make a near flawless or flawless constructed cigar, I think that's what takes it into that seven. And hopefully that's kind of indicative of the cost, that the price is representative that it's a very well constructed cigar. So again, I think if you're judging it solely on flavor and took construction out, to me, where it stands today, it's a low six to mid six. How do you think it matches up?
Yeah, I mean, I thought the flavor profile on the first order was good, and then after that, it was just average, and that's
Yeah,
kind of how it finished up. But like you said, very good construction that helps it out. So otherwise, it would probably been mid to low fives for me.
yeah.
Price point's a little bit high, especially for a smaller Vitola like this. Kind of a sub Robusto almost. So, um, yeah, I mean, it'd be a stretch for me to want to shell out the money to revisit this, even
Yeah,
hoping that it's going to be better down the road. It's just a high price point.
yeah.
Once you get above 10 for a Robusto, and you don't have a good experience the first time,
That's a tough value
how many
proposition over
times
ten
are you going to go
bucks.
back to it? So,
Yeah.
yeah. You have any other final thoughts on this cigar?
No, I don't think so. I think, like I said, the only thing is I want to put this on our quote unquote list to revisit in 2019 and see if
Mhm.
there is a better harmonization of the tobacco, because my hope is that it's got potential.
Yep, exactly. All right, if you're just catching this video on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to us. But also catch the full written review on the website, developingpalates.com. Follow us on all the social media channels, and you can find all of our review recaps on podcasts, so iTunes, Google Play, and Podbean. Thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one.
Rip and dip.